Let me tell you something straight up. If you ever want to see how disposable someone thinks you are, wait until they believe they don't need you anymore. That text came at 11:02 p.m. Not a call. Not even a voice note. Just cold letters glowing on my phone screen like they were carved in ice. You won't be joining us. Tanya thinks it's better if it's just her family. You've already done your part by paying. I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. Then I flipped the phone face down on my kitchen table like it had just insulted my dead husband. 3 years. 3 whole years I had been building that trip. Saving like a squirrel before winter. Skipping dinners out. Turning down little luxuries. Selling old furniture. Tutoring online when my eyes burned and my hands ached. All for one dream. Hawaii. The same islands where my husband and I had gone for our honeymoon in our 20s, broke, sunburned, laughing like fools in love. I wanted my son to feel that sand. I wanted my grandbabies to see where their grandpa once stood. I thought it would reconnect us. Yeah. Turns out I was just the ATM with wrinkles. I sat there in the dim kitchen light, staring at the little zippered bags I had labeled for each grandchild. Sunscreen. Tiny souvenirs. Keychains that said, Aloha, and Grandma loves you. Guess Grandma wasn't part of the package deal. And the worst part? It wasn't even my son's words that hurt the most. It was how easy it seemed for him to send them. No stutter. No hesitation. Just, boom. Replaced. Like I was an old app they deleted once they upgraded their life. I had seen it coming, if I'm being real. Tanya correcting me in front of the kids. Hosting holidays at her mom's place. Family photos where somehow there was never space for me. Let's do one with just our family unit, she'd say. Like I was a neighbor who wandered into the frame. Still, I never thought Nathan would co-sign that energy. This was the boy who used to call me his superhero. The kid who once drew me with a cape in 2nd grade. My mom saves the day. Yeah. Apparently not anymore. That night, I opened my old laptop. The screen blinked awake like it knew something serious was about to go down. There it was. Travel fund, $21,763.84. Every penny linked to bookings. The villa. The flights. The car rentals. The luau. The snorkeling lessons. All pulling from one primary account. Mine. The cursor hovered over a tiny button that said, Freeze account. 1 click. That's all it would take. But I didn't click it. Not yet. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing a different list. Names of women I knew. Women from church. Neighbors. Widows. The invisible ones. The ones who gave their whole lives and got sidelined in return. Carol. Louise. Francine. Beverly. Women who hadn't left the state in decades. Women who understood what it felt like to be thanked with silence. Then I went back to the banking page. The little confirmation box popped up. Are you sure you want to pause all linked transactions? I stared at it. You should understand your place. That line echoed in my head. I clicked yes. Another pop-up. All linked cards will be disabled immediately. Yes. Click. And just like that, the bank closed. I leaned back in my chair and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for years. Not revenge. Clarity. For the first time in 3 years, I imagined a different kind of trip. One where I wasn't the afterthought. One where I wasn't paying to be tolerated. One where I wasn't begging for a seat at a table I built. And that's when I smiled. Because they thought they were boarding a flight to paradise. What they didn't know? The runway ran straight through me. And I had just turned off the lights. They had no idea their family-only vacation was about to hit turbulence at 30,000 feet, and I wasn't even on the plane yet. Underscore 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 underscore. Let me tell you something about disrespect. It rarely shows up loud. It doesn't scream in your face. It whispers. It edits you out. It crops you from the picture and calls it simpler. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I had somewhere to be, but because my brain wouldn't shut up. That text replayed all night like a broken record. You've already done your part by paying. I moved through my house like a ghost. Straightened picture frames that were already straight. Wiped counters that were spotless. Folded the same throw blanket twice. That's what hurt does. It makes you clean things that aren't dirty because you can't fix what is. Later that afternoon, I opened my email. Subject line, final itinerary, Hawaii family escape. Family. I clicked it. 8 names. Nathan. Tanya. Their 2 kids. Tanya's parents. Tanya's sister. Sister's boyfriend. 8 boarding passes. 8 welcome lays. 8 guests registered at the beachfront villa. I scrolled slow, zoomed in like maybe I missed something. No Marilyn. No mom. No grandma. Not even a +1. They didn't forget me. They erased me. That realization didn't feel sharp. It felt heavy. Like someone quietly moved me out of my own house. That evening, Tanya called. Not Nathan. Her. Her voice was syrup sweet. We're just finishing packing. Hope everything's good on your end money-wise. Final payment should hit tomorrow, right? Money-wise. I swear, if the devil wore perfume, it would sound like that. I asked softly, is there anything you need me to bring? A pause. Bring, she repeated. Snacks for the kids. Motion sickness bands. You know Olivia gets queasy sometimes. She cut me off, polite, but firm. Marilyn, we've got it handled. You should use this week to rest. Focus on yourself. Focus on myself. Translation, stay home. I stood in my kitchen after she hung up and looked at the bird bath my husband installed 20 years ago. The water was still. No ripples. That's how I felt. Still. But not small. I went to my desk and opened the fireproof lockbox. Account holder, Marilyn Rose. Authorized users, none. Linked cards, 6. Every single booking tied directly to me. That's when it hit me. They didn't disinvite me because they thought I'd protest. They disinvited me because they thought I wouldn't. They assumed I'd stay grateful for crumbs. That I'd smile and wave while financing my own exclusion. Oh honey. You must have forgotten who raised you. I opened my banking app. Travel fund, $21,763.84. Freeze mode, OFF. My finger hovered. But I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I opened my calendar and circled departure day in red. Flight leaves LAX at 10:45 a.m. Airport arrival time? Probably around 8:15. Check-in desk. Luggage on the scale. Boarding passes ready. Confident. That's when it should happen. If I was going to do it, it had to be clean. Precise. No drama. Just consequences. Still, I gave them one more shot. I texted Nathan. Let me know if you need help with the kids' bags before the trip. I can drop off some snacks. Delivered. Read. No response. 1 hour. 2 hours. Nothing. Not even a thumbs up. That silence told me everything. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't miscommunication. This was entitlement. I was the vault. They were cashing out. But here's the thing about vaults. They lock. I opened the banking app again. Freeze mode. Toggle. A tiny message appeared. Activate to pause all outgoing charges. Linked cards will be disabled. One click. The button turned blue. Freeze mode active. No alerts sent to them. No warning shots. They would find out the same way I did. Suddenly. Silently. Undeniably. I leaned back in my chair and took a slow sip of peppermint tea. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like balance. Over the next 48 hours, I said nothing. Tanya posted matching beach hats on Instagram. Caption, off to paradise. Family only. Family only. That line hit like a slap. But I didn't comment. Didn't like it. Didn't react. Because sometimes silence is louder than a whole sermon. Then my youngest granddaughter sent me a voice message. Grandma. We're gonna see sea turtles. I pressed it to my chest. I'm sorry, baby, I whispered. But someone's gotta teach your parents the value of presence. They thought the only thing left was to board the plane. They had their straw hats. Their color-coordinated luggage. Their smug little everything's handled energy. What they didn't know? That flight wasn't running on jet fuel. It was running on trust. And they'd burned every drop. The airport check-in counter was about to light up with red error messages, and my phone? Oh, it was about to blow up like the 4th of July. The morning of their flight, I woke up calm. Too calm. Like the kind of calm right before a summer storm cracks the sky open. I made my coffee in that old chipped mug Nathan gave me when he was 9. Best mom ever, printed in fading blue letters. I used to think that meant something permanent. Turns out, ink fades. At 7:52 a.m., Tanya posted a picture on Instagram. Back seat of an Uber. Kids grinning. Nathan throwing up a peace sign like he was 25 again. Caption, off to paradise. Family only. That last part? Yeah. That one had teeth. I didn't flinch. I just kept sipping my coffee. At 8:19 a.m., my phone buzzed. Nathan. Hey, getting some weird error at check-in. Can you check the travel account real quick? I set the phone face down. 5 minutes later. Mom, they're saying the cards declined. You seeing anything on your end? 10 more minutes. Okay, this is getting stressful. Just call me please. Then the calls started. 1, 2, 3. Back to back. Voicemails stacking up like unpaid bills. Mom, it's probably just a fraud alert or something. Mom, the rental car won't go through either. Mom, please. The kids are right here. The kids are right here. Funny how suddenly I mattered when the machine stopped working. I glanced at the clock. 8:34 a.m. Their flight boarded at 10:15. I imagined the scene. Tanya at the counter, smile twitching. Her mom whispering, "What's going on?" Nathan swiping the card again like maybe the 5th time would magically change physics. Beep. Declined. Beep. Declined. That tiny digital sound probably felt louder than a slap. At 8:42, a new voicemail came through. His voice had changed. Lower. Urgent. Mom, if this is because of the text, can we just talk? Please. Notice something? Not, I'm sorry. Not, we messed up. Just, can we talk? Translation, can you fix it? I still didn't answer. At 9:03 a.m., an email came in. From the resort. Subject, booking cancellation confirmation. Dear Ms. Monroe, due to the account freeze initiated by the sole account holder, all associated reservations have been reversed. Sole account holder. That phrase felt like armor. The villa? Cancelled. Car rentals? Reversed. Excursions? Gone. Private chef? Bye. Every charge snapped back like a rubber band. I leaned back in my chair and let out a slow breath. They had matching luggage. They had beach hats. They had that smug, family-only glow. What they didn't have? Funding. At 9:17 a.m., my phone lit up again. Mom, they're saying we might lose the seats. 9:22. Tanya's parents are asking questions. 9:28. Mom, please. I don't know what you did, but this is humiliating. Humiliating. That word sat there. Heavy. Interesting how being excluded from a trip I paid for wasn't humiliating. But being told no at the airport? Now that was a crisis. At 9:41 a.m., Tanya finally texted me directly. Marilyn, this is not the time for games. Games. I almost laughed. 3 years of saving. 3 years of planning. 3 years of dreaming about lighting a candle on the beach for my husband. That wasn't a game. But okay. If we're calling it that. Checkmate. At 10:02 a.m., Nathan called again. This time I answered. I didn't say hello. I just let the silence sit there. Mom, he said, voice tight. Unlock the account. We can figure everything else out later. Later. Always later. Apologies later. Conversations later. Respect later. But the money? That was needed now. I spoke calmly. I thought it was family only. Dead silence on the other end. Then, Mom, don't do this. Don't do this. Like I was the one who drew the line. I didn't, I said. You did. He started to talk over me. Excuses. Stress. Miscommunication. Tanya didn't mean it like that. I let him talk. Then I said one sentence. You don't get to remove me from the table and still expect me to pay for dinner. Click. I hung up. At 10:40 a.m., I got one last text. We're boarding. Please call me. I didn't. Because here's the thing. Planes can take off without you. But vacations don't run on vibes. They run on payment authorizations. And those were frozen solid. By noon, the calls stopped. The chaos probably shifted from panic to damage control. Credit cards pulled out. Emergency rebookings. Interest rates about to skyrocket. And for the first time in a long time, I went for a walk. The sun felt warm on my face. A neighbor waved and asked, "Heading somewhere for spring break?" I smiled. "Not yet," I said. "But soon." Because while they were scrambling at gate 32, trying to salvage paradise, I was about to build my own. And this time, I wouldn't be begging for an invite. 2 days later, the notifications started rolling in. Ping. Refund processed, villa reservation. Ping. Refund processed, rental car. Ping. Refund processed, luau experience. Ping. Snorkeling tour. Airport transfers. Chef deposit. Even the fancy welcome lays. One by one, every single charge slid right back into my account like it never left. I sat at my kitchen table watching the numbers climb. $3,200. $1,480. $5,600. $870. By the time the last notification came through, the travel fund was full again. $21,763.84. 84 cents and all. But this time it didn't feel like a sacrifice sitting there. It felt like power. Nathan texted later that evening. "Look, things spiraled. We had to rebook everything on credit. It's messy right now. We'll talk when we get back." When we get back. That line told me everything. They still went. They still found a way. Probably slapped it on credit cards, thinking I'd bail them out once the smoke cleared. Because that's what moms do, right? We patch holes. We absorb consequences. We clean up emotional messes with financial band-aids. Yeah. Not this time. Another text came in the next morning. "This isn't about sides, Mom. It just got complicated." Complicated. You know what's not complicated? Inviting the woman who paid for the trip. What's complicated is entitlement meeting a boundary. That's when things get loud. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notebook, the same one where I used to jot down my husband's favorite songs and the kids' birthday lists. I flipped to a clean page and wrote 3 words at the top. The Forgotten Women. Underneath, I started listing names. Carol, widow, hasn't traveled since 2009. Francine, buried her husband last fall. Beverly, caretaker for her brother, exhausted down to her bones. Louise, once told me no one's ever taken her to see the ocean. I stared at that list for a long time. These women didn't see me as a wallet. They saw me. They'd sat beside me in church when grief was fresh. They'd dropped off casseroles without posting about it. They never once made me feel like an extra in my own life. I picked up the phone and called Carol first. "Hey, I've got a wild idea," I said. She laughed. "Oh Lord, should I be scared?" "Pack a suitcase." Silence. "For what?" "For Hawaii." She thought I was joking. I wasn't. One by one, I called them. The reactions were the same every time. Confusion. Then disbelief. Then tears. "Why me?" Louise asked. "Because someone should choose you," I said. And I meant it. I called the travel agent back, different tone this time. Confident. Calm. This booking will be under my name only, I told her. 6 guests. Separate beds. And I want one big dining table. Big enough so no one's left out. No family only captions. No performative matching outfits. No quiet exclusions disguised as logistics. Just presence. When I booked the villa, I made sure it had a patio overlooking the water. I ordered a frame for my husband's photo, walnut wood, simple and strong. I packed 7 lavender candles. 1 for each woman. And 1 for me. That night, Nathan called again. I let it go to voicemail. His message sounded tired. Mom, we'll fix this when we get back. Just, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Temporary. I looked around my quiet house. 3 years of saving wasn't temporary. Being erased wasn't temporary. But you know what was? Their access. That had expired. I didn't block him. I didn't rant on social media. I didn't tell the grandkids anything messy. I just moved forward. Because here's the thing about boundaries, they don't require announcements. They require consistency. A week later, my suitcase sat by the door. Not packed with resentment. Packed with linen dresses, sunscreen, and peace. When the airport doors slid open and the 6 of us walked in together, we weren't loud. We weren't flashy. But we were chosen. And that energy? It hits different. As the plane lifted off, I looked out the window and smiled. They had their version of paradise, charged at 24% interest. I had mine. Paid in full. And this time? Nobody was getting edited out. Underscore 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 underscore. The air in Hawaii doesn't just feel warm, it feels forgiving. The second we stepped out of that airport, salt kissed my skin and the breeze wrapped around us like it had been waiting. Carol grabbed my arm and whispered, "Marilyn, we really out here?" I laughed. "Girl, we really out here. 6 women. 6 carry-ons. 0 drama. No matching, family-only shirts. No forced smiles. No quiet tension hiding under sunscreen. Just us." The drive to the villa was quiet at first. Not awkward quiet, overwhelmed quiet. The kind where you're trying to process that someone actually chose you. When we pulled up, Beverly gasped. The place sat perched above the ocean, palm trees swaying like they had nowhere else to be. The kind of view you see on postcards and think, yeah right, that's photoshopped. It wasn't. Inside, there was one long wooden dining table. Big. Solid. Enough chairs for everyone. No folding seats. No sidelines. I made sure of that. Francine ran her fingers along the countertop like she was afraid it might disappear. "I haven't been on a trip since 1998, she said softly. "Then we're overdue," I told her. That first night, we didn't rush anywhere. We ordered food, kicked off our sandals, and sat outside listening to the waves roll in. No one checked their phones every 5 minutes. No one posted a "look at us" selfie for validation. Because when you're actually happy, you don't need witnesses. Later, I unpacked James' photo and placed it at the center of the table. Walnut frame. Simple. Strong. No one asked why it was there. No one suggested moving it. Carol just nodded and poured a little wine into a glass beside it. "To the men who loved us right," she said. We clinked glasses. That hit me harder than I expected. The next morning, we walked the beach barefoot. Beverly kept laughing every time the water chased her ankles. Louise stood still for a long time just staring at the horizon. "I always thought the ocean would make me feel small," she said. "And?" I asked. "It makes me feel free." "See, that's the thing. Freedom feels different when no one's trying to shrink you." We spent the week slow. Slow breakfasts. Long talks. Afternoon naps with the windows open. No schedule packed to impress anyone. One evening, we lit the first lavender candle beside James' photo. I passed the match to Carol. She held it like it meant something. "Say one thing you wish someone told you when you were 30, I said. She swallowed hard. "You don't have to earn love." Silence fell heavy and sacred. The second night, Francine lit the candle. "You are not too much." Third night, Beverly. "You're allowed to rest." Every night, a different truth. Every night, something unspoken finally spoken. No interruptions. No eye rolls. No, "let's wrap this up." Just space. And you know what I realized sitting there, watching candlelight flicker against weathered faces? I didn't just bring them to Hawaii. I brought them somewhere they hadn't been in years. Seen. Meanwhile, my phone stayed mostly quiet. A few texts from Nathan. "We're back. It wasn't what we expected. We'll talk soon." Soon. That word again. I didn't rush to answer. I was busy watching Louise try to hula on the patio while Nora cheered her on like she'd just won Olympic gold. I was busy listening to women who had been background characters in their own families finally tell their full stories. One night, Beverly turned to me and said, "You didn't just give us a vacation. You gave us proof we still matter." That one landed deep. Because that's all I had ever wanted, too. Proof. On the last evening, we walked the shoreline under a sky so pink it looked unreal. The moon turned the water silver. Wrinkles, scars, soft bellies, everything glowed. No one apologized for taking up space. No one minimized their laugh. We formed a loose circle in the sand. No ceremony. No script. Just breath. I looked at them and felt something shift inside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for validation. I wasn't hoping my son would suddenly get it. I had stopped carrying that weight. And when you set something heavy down, you realize how strong you actually are. Back at the villa, I checked my phone before bed. One new email from Nathan. Subject: "We need to clear the air." I stared at it for a long moment. Didn't open it. Not yet. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing for disappointment. I was at peace. And peace? It doesn't beg. Underscore 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 underscore. underscore 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 underscore. I didn't open Nathan's email that night. I let it sit there in my inbox while I slept with the balcony doors cracked open, ocean air sliding across the room like silk. For once, my mind wasn't racing. No rehearsed arguments. No imaginary speeches. Just waves and wind and the soft hum of women who felt safe enough to snore. The next morning, pineapple juice in hand, I finally clicked it. Subject: we need to clear the air. I already knew what that meant. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. Just, let's smooth this over. I read it slow. Mom, we're back now. The trip didn't exactly go how we planned. A lot went wrong. I guess some of that's on us. Maybe things could have been communicated better. Maybe. That word doing all the heavy lifting. Tanya says hi. She was really stressed and didn't mean to exclude you like that. She just wanted the trip to feel a certain way. A certain way. Yeah. Filtered. Curated. Edited. Anyway, we're dealing with some financial fallout. We had to rebook things on credit, and it's kind of snowballing. So I wanted to ask, if you're able, could you consider returning the original deposit? Or even part of it? There it was. Not reconciliation. A refund request. I read that paragraph 3 times, hoping I'd missed something. A real apology. Accountability. Regret. Nothing. Just strategy. We're still family. That line almost made me laugh. Family when convenient. ATM when necessary. Optional when present. I leaned back in my chair and looked around the villa, at Louise sipping coffee on the patio, at Carol reading a paperback with her feet propped up, at Beverly humming while she cut fresh fruit. This felt like family. No one here asked me to wire money to fix their bad decisions. No one here expected generosity without respect. I thought about the word deposit. Like they had invested something. Like they had skin in the game. I opened my banking app just to double-check. Every charge. Every booking. Every payment. All from my account. There had never been a shared fund. They didn't lose money. They lost access. That's different. For a second, old habits tried to creep in. Maybe I should help. Maybe the kids shouldn't suffer. Maybe I'm being too harsh. That's the voice motherhood builds in you, the one that says fix it no matter what it costs you. But here's what I've learned. If you rescue grown people from the consequences of their choices, you teach them nothing except how to repeat them. I close the banking app. Then I read the email one last time. No ownership. No direct apology. Just pressure wrapped in politeness. I didn't reply. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Because if you need me only when your credit limit taps out, that's not love. That's leverage. Later that afternoon, we sat around the big table again. The last lavender candle stood unlit beside James' photo. I struck the match myself this time. "This one's mine," I said. The flame caught slow and steady. "I wish someone told me at 30, I continued, "that love without respect isn't love. It's a contract." The women nodded. No dramatic music. No applause. Just understanding. That night, I finally drafted a response to Nathan. Short. Calm. Clear. "I hope you and the kids are safe. I won't be reimbursing anything. The travel fund was mine, and I chose how to use it. When you're ready to have a real conversation, one that includes accountability, I'm here. Until then, take care." I didn't hit send right away. I let it sit. Then I deleted half of it. Simplified it. Because sometimes less is stronger. Final version. "I won't be sending any money. I hope we can talk honestly someday. Send." No emojis. No exclamation points. Just a boundary. I set the phone down and stepped outside. The sky was bruised purple and gold. Waves rolled in steady and sure, like they had all the time in the world. I realized something standing there barefoot in the sand. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for an apology. Not for validation. Not for a seat at someone else's table. I had built my own. And the guest list? By invitation only. When I got back home, the house felt different. Not emptier. Lighter. Like something heavy had been carried out while I was gone. I unpacked slow. Left a little sand in the bottom of my suitcase on purpose. A reminder. Proof that I didn't imagine the peace I felt. The pineapple I brought back sat on the counter, sweet and stubborn. The walnut-framed photo of James went back to its usual spot by the window. I touched the glass lightly. "We did good," I whispered. Because we did. My phone buzzed later that evening. "Nathan." Not a call. A text. "Got your message." That was it. No anger. No apology. Just acknowledgement. You know what's wild? A few months ago, that would have twisted me up. I would have analyzed the punctuation. Wondered what he really meant. Debated whether I should soften my tone. Not anymore. Because once you stop chasing understanding, you start choosing peace. A few days passed. Then he called. I let it ring once. Twice. On the third ring, I answered. "Hi, Mom." His voice sounded tired. Not angry. Not defensive. Just worn. "We messed up," he said finally. There it was. Not polished. Not rehearsed. But real. We shouldn't have handled it that way. I didn't rush to fill the silence. Didn't say, "It's okay." Didn't say, "I understand." I let the weight of his words sit where they landed. He cleared his throat. Tanya thought it would be simpler. I went along with it. I shouldn't have. That part mattered more than anything. I shouldn't have. Ownership. I felt something loosen in my chest, not because I needed an apology to survive, but because accountability changes the temperature of a room. "I wasn't heard about Hawaii," I said calmly. He started to interrupt. "Let me finish," I added, steady. "I was hurt that you thought I'd accept being excluded quietly. Like my role was just to fund it." Silence. Then, softer, "I didn't think about it like that." "I know," I said. "That's the problem. We didn't solve everything in that call. No dramatic reconciliation. No group hug soundtrack. Just a long, honest conversation where I didn't shrink myself to make it easier for him. That was new. Later that week, my granddaughter Olivia FaceTimed me. "Grandma. Dad said you went to Hawaii too." I smiled. "Sure did, baby. Without us?" Kids are direct like that. "Yeah," I said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups need their own trips too." She nodded like that made perfect sense. Then she said something that stuck with me. "Next time can we all go together?" Next time. Not entitled. Not assumed. Invited. That's the difference. I told her, maybe. If we all treat each other right. She grinned. Deal. After we hung up, I sat on my porch with a glass of iced tea and thought about everything that had happened. Here's the truth nobody tells you about motherhood. If you never draw a line, people forget there is one. If you always bend, they stop noticing the shape you were meant to hold. I don't regret freezing that account. Not for a second. Because it wasn't about punishment. It was about correction. About reminding everyone, including myself, that love isn't automatic access. Respect is the entry fee. Nathan and I are still talking. Slowly. Carefully. Tanya hasn't called yet. That's fine. Growth takes time. But here's what's different now. I'm not afraid to lose access to people who only value me for what I provide. I'm not afraid to say no. And I'm definitely not funding my own exclusion ever again. Last Sunday, I hosted dinner at my house. Small. Just Nathan and the kids. No big production. No tension. At the table, Olivia reached for my hand and said, "Grandma, tell the story about you and Grandpa getting sunburned." And I did. Nathan listened. Really listened. And when I finished, he said quietly, "We should have had you there." Not dramatic. Not loud. Just honest. I nodded. "Next time," I said, "we do it right. Because here's the thing. I didn't burn the bridge. I just closed the toll gate. And now? If anyone wants to cross into my generosity again, they pay in respect first." People think the big moment was the airport. The declined cards. The frantic calls. The "unlock it, Mom" panic. But that wasn't the real turning point. The real shift happened quietly. It happened the day I realized I wasn't heartbroken. I was awake. A few weeks after everything settled, I found the old mason jar in the back of my cabinet, the one I used to call my dream jar. It still smelled faintly like the peppermint candies I used to keep beside it. 3 years of sacrifice had gone into that jar. Skipped dinners. Extra tutoring sessions. Cold nights with the thermostat turned down. I used to think the dream inside it was Hawaii with my family. Turns out, the dream was bigger than that. It was dignity. It was learning that generosity without boundaries is just self-erasure dressed up as love. Nathan and I talk more now. Not every day. Not about everything. But differently. There's less assumption. More awareness. Once, he started to joke about me being too dramatic about the whole situation. I looked at him, not angry, not emotional, just steady. "I was dramatic when I stayed silent," I said. "I'm just clear now." He didn't argue. That's growth. Tanya eventually sent a message too. Short. Careful. "I didn't realize how it would feel from your side." Not an apology exactly. But closer than before. I replied, "Now you do." No paragraphs. No lectures. Just truth. Here's what I've learned, and I hope somebody listening needs to hear this. When people get used to your endless giving, your boundary will feel like betrayal to them. Let it. Because the version of you that never says no? That's the one who gets left behind. And I'm not walking behind anybody anymore. Last month, I started a small tradition. Once every season, I host what I call the long table dinner. One big table. Open seats. Anyone who shows up with respect is welcome. Carol came the first time. So did Beverly. Nathan brought the kids. Even Tanya showed up, quiet but present. We didn't rehash Hawaii. We didn't dissect the past. We just ate. Laughed. Told stories. And when it came time for photos, Nathan said, "Mom, get in the middle." No one had to shuffle chairs. No one had to adjust the frame to fit me in. I was already there. Centered. Not because I demanded it. Because I stopped accepting less. Later that night, when the house was quiet again, I stepped outside and listened to the wind chime James bought on our 35th anniversary. The same one that rang the morning I froze the account. It sounded different now. Not sharp. Not lonely. Just steady. I thought back to that text, "You've already done your part by paying." They were wrong. My part was never just the money. My part was teaching them what respect costs. And that lesson? It wasn't refundable. If you've ever felt erased. If you've ever funded someone else's comfort while shrinking yourself to fit. If you've ever been told to understand your place in a life you helped build. Hear me clearly. Your place is not in the background. Your place is not in the wallet. Your place is not at the edge of the photo waiting to be cropped. Your place is at the table. And if there's no chair with your name on it, build a better table. I did. And I've never felt more at home. The truth is, I wasn't left behind. I just stopped walking behind them. And the moment I stood still, they had to decide whether to meet me where I was. Some did. Some are still learning. Either way, I'm not moving backward again. Underscore 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 underscore. You'd think after all that, the story would just fade into normal life. But big boundaries don't disappear. They echo. A month after the long table dinner became a thing, Olivia asked me something that stopped me mid-sentence. We were baking cookies. Flour everywhere, chocolate chips disappearing faster than I could count. She looked up at me and said, "Grandma, why didn't you just pay for their trip again so nobody would be sad?" Out of the mouths of kids, right? I didn't rush to answer. Because that question? That's the whole story. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and crouched down so we were eye level. Do you think it's my job to fix things when someone hurts me? I asked gently. She thought about it. Well, you're the grandma. And there it is. Somewhere along the line, we teach women, especially mothers, that love means absorbing damage quietly. I smiled at her. Sometimes the best way to love someone is to let them feel the consequences of their choices, I said. That's how they learn. She nodded slowly like she was filing that away for later. Legacy. Not money. Not vacations. Not houses or heirlooms. Lessons. That's what sticks. Nathan and I have had a few deeper talks since then. Real ones. The kind where you don't defend yourself first, you listen first. One evening he admitted something that surprised me. I think I got comfortable, he said. I knew you'd always show up. No matter what. Comfortable. That word carries weight. Because when someone believes your love is unconditional but your boundaries are optional, they start confusing loyalty with access. I will always love you, I told him. But access to my generosity? That's conditional. He didn't argue. He understood. That right there? That's growth. Tanya still moves carefully around me. Polite. Measured. I don't chase closeness anymore. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, I'm still steady. Because I stopped measuring my worth by how included I am in someone else's plans. A few weeks ago, Nathan suggested we all take a short trip together next summer. He didn't assume I'd pay. He didn't hint. He said, we can plan something together. Split it fairly. Together. Fairly. Two words that weren't in the vocabulary before. I didn't jump at it. I didn't shut it down either. I'll think about it, I said. And I meant that. Because now I choose. That's the difference. The old me would have started price-checking flights that same night. The new me asks one question first. Do I feel respected here? If the answer's yes, I move forward. If it's not, I stay put. The forgotten women still call me every week. We're already planning our next trip, not as a reaction to pain, but as a celebration of choice. That's another lesson. Don't only build joy when you're proving a point. Build it because you deserve it. Last Sunday, during another long table dinner, I watched everyone laugh around that big wooden table. Kids arguing over dessert. Carol telling a story too loud. Nathan refilling drinks without being asked. And I noticed something small but powerful. When it came time for the group photo, nobody had to say, let's make room for Mom. There was already space. Because when you teach people how to treat you, they either adjust, or they lose proximity. It's that simple. I don't regret freezing that account. Not because it felt good in the moment, it didn't. It was hard. But hard doesn't mean wrong. It was the first time I chose self-respect over smoothness. And that decision didn't just change a vacation. It changed the dynamic. So if you're sitting there feeling overlooked, if you've been funding someone else's comfort at the expense of your own dignity, if you're scared that drawing a line will cost you the relationship, ask yourself this. What's it costing you to stay silent? Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do isn't paying the bill. It's closing the account. And trust me, the right people will learn to show up with respect. Or they'll learn to live without access. Either way, you win. You know what nobody prepares you for? The quiet after the storm. Not the chaos. Not the conflict. The stillness. A few months passed. Life settled into something steadier. Not perfect, just honest. The long table dinners became routine. The Forgotten Women group chat stayed active. My calendar wasn't empty anymore. And neither was I. One afternoon, Nathan showed up unannounced. Not dramatic. Not urgent. Just there. He was holding a small bakery box. Peace offering? I teased. He gave a half smile. Olivia said you like lemon cake. I stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I froze the account. Funny how life circles back like that. He didn't dance around it this time. I've been thinking, he said. About everything. I waited. You weren't wrong, he continued. You were just the first one to stop pretending. That landed. Because that's exactly what it was. I stopped pretending I didn't notice. Stopped pretending I wasn't hurt. Stopped pretending my role was just financial support with a smile. I should have defended you, he added quietly. Instead of going along with what was easier. There it was again. Ownership. Growth doesn't come in fireworks. It comes in sentences like that. I didn't cry. I didn't dramatize it. I just nodded. I'm not asking you to choose sides, I told him. I'm asking you to choose integrity. He sat with that. Then he said something I didn't expect. When I was a kid, I used to think you were invincible. I laughed softly. I was tired, not invincible. I know that now, he said. And I think I took advantage of it. That's the thing about adulthood. One day you realize your parents weren't superheroes. They were just people, loving hard and hoping it was enough. We didn't fix everything that afternoon. Healing doesn't wrap up in a neat little bow. But something shifted. Not because I forgave blindly. But because he finally saw clearly. Before he left, he pulled something from his jacket pocket. An envelope. I opened a savings account, he said. For a future family trip. Everyone contributes. No one carries it alone. I looked at him. You don't have to prove anything to me, I said. I'm not, he replied. I'm correcting myself. That hit deeper than any apology. After he left, I sat alone for a minute. The kitchen felt different again. Not heavy. Not tense. Just balanced. Later that week, Tanya texted me directly. No formal tone. No forced politeness. I've been reflecting, she wrote. I centered what I wanted instead of what was fair. That wasn't right. Simple. Honest. I responded the same way. Thank you for saying that. No long speech. Because apologies don't need paragraphs. They need sincerity. Here's what I've learned at this stage in life. Boundaries don't destroy families. Avoiding them does. If I had unlocked that account at the airport, we would have gone on pretending. They would have learned nothing. And I would have grown smaller. Instead, we grew up. All of us. The Forgotten Women still tease me about being ice cold at the airport. I tell them, no, I was warm. Just not available. Big difference. Last night, at dinner, Nathan raised a glass. To Mom, he said. For teaching us the difference between generosity and obligation. No sarcasm. No discomfort. Just truth. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something full circle. Not because they praised me. But because I didn't need them to. I didn't freeze the account to win. I froze it to stop losing myself. And that's a lesson I hope lives longer than any vacation ever could. Because at the end of the day, paradise isn't a place you fly to. It's a place you stand in when you finally decide. I deserve a seat at my own table. And this time? Nobody's moving my chair. Underscore 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 underscore. A year later, we tried again. Not Hawaii. Not something flashy. Just a small coastal town a few hours away. Neutral ground. No history attached to it. No emotional landmines buried under the sand. And this time? Nobody assumed anything. We planned it at my dining table, the long one. Nathan brought a notebook. Tanya brought printed options. The kids brought chaos and snack crumbs. I brought one rule. We plan it together, I said. We pay for it together. And if something feels off, we say it out loud. No awkward glances. No resistance. Just nods. The difference was subtle, but real. No one looked at me like the default sponsor. No one said, "You've got it, right?" Instead, Nathan said, "I'll cover the rental house." Tanya added, "We'll handle groceries." I offered, "I'll take care of one dinner out." Balanced. Fair. Clean. When we arrived at that little beach house, I noticed something right away. No one walked ahead of me. No one walked behind me. We walked in together. The kids ran straight to the backyard. Nathan started unloading bags. Tanya handed me a set of keys. "Your room's on the left," she said. Best view. Small detail. Big message. That first night, we ate tacos at the big wooden table by the window. Not as picture-perfect as Hawaii. No dramatic sunsets. Just ordinary light. But the air felt lighter. At one point, Olivia tugged my sleeve. "Grandma, can we light one of your candles?" I froze for half a second. She remembered. I had brought one lavender candle with me. Not as a statement, not as a ceremony. Just in case. We placed it in the center of the table. No speech. No performance. Nathan looked at it, then at me. "Dad would have liked this place," he said. There was no tension in the sentence. Just memory. Later that evening, Tanya and I stood alone in the kitchen rinsing dishes. She cleared her throat. "I didn't grow up watching Healthy Boundaries," she admitted quietly. "I thought excluding you would make things simpler." "Simpler for who?" I asked gently. She didn't dodge it this time. "For me." That honesty mattered. "I don't need to be centered," I told her. "But I won't be sidelined." She nodded. And for the first time, it didn't feel like competition. It felt like understanding. The next morning, Nathan handed me a coffee on the porch. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not walking away completely." That stopped me. Because I could have. It would have been easier to retreat into my new circle, keep my peace airtight, and limit access permanently. But boundaries aren't about isolation. They're about recalibration. "I didn't stay for you," I said honestly. "I stayed for me." He smiled slightly. "Fair enough." That trip wasn't extravagant. No private chefs. No snorkeling tours. No Instagram captions about family only. But when we took a group photo on the last day, no one had to shuffle around. Nathan set the timer. Then he ran and stood beside me. Not in front. Not as the center. Beside. The camera clicked. And this time, nobody was cropped out. Driving home, I thought about how different everything felt. Not because conflict never happened, but because respect had been introduced into the equation. And respect? That's the real upgrade. When we pulled into my driveway, Olivia hugged me tight. Next year, can we do it again? I looked at Nathan. He didn't answer for me. He waited. I smiled. If we keep doing it right, I said, then yes. Because here's the truth. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means it happened, and we grew anyway. I didn't freeze that account to end my family. I froze it to reset it. And sometimes, that's exactly what love requires. Not silence. Not sacrifice. Not swallowing your hurt to keep things smooth. But one brave moment where you say, not like this. And when people rise to meet that standard, you don't lose family. You rebuild it. Underscore 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 underscore. You know what's funny? Nobody talks about what we actually leave behind. They talk about houses, jewelry, bank accounts, property titles. But after everything that happened, I realized something real clear. The real inheritance is how people treat you after you teach them how to. A few months after our small beach trip, I got a call from Nathan. Hey, Mom, he said. I wanted to run something by you. That alone was new. Run something by you. Not inform you. Not assume. Not expect. He explained they were planning a bigger family vacation the following year. Nothing locked in. Just ideas. And before we decide anything, he added, we wanted to know what feels comfortable for you. Comfortable for me. I leaned back in my chair and let that sit. Because there was a time, not that long ago, when comfort wasn't part of the conversation. Only convenience was. I appreciate you asking, I said. Let's talk it through. And we did. Budget breakdowns. Room assignments. Shared costs. Expectations. Everything on the table. Transparent. Equal. Nobody flinched when I said, if I ever feel sidelined again, I'll step back without drama. Nathan nodded. That's fair. Tanya nodded too. No eye rolls. No tension. Just understanding. That's the inheritance. Not the money I saved. Not the villa I canceled. But the lesson that love doesn't override respect, it works with it. A week later, Olivia came over for the afternoon. She was working on a school project about family traditions. She asked if she could interview me. What's the most important tradition in our family? She asked, holding her little notebook like a reporter. I thought about it. Then I said, we don't buy closeness. We build it. She wrote that down carefully. Then she asked, "What happens if someone messes up?" I smiled. "We fix it honestly. That's it. No drama. No pretending it never happened. Just fix it honestly." Later that evening, when the house was quiet again, I walked past the old mason jar in the cabinet. It's empty now. But I didn't throw it away. I keep it there as a reminder. Not of the trip that almost happened, but of the moment I decided I mattered too. People sometimes ask me if I regret freezing that account. Not once. Because here's what would have happened if I didn't. They would have enjoyed Hawaii. Posted sunset pictures. Tagged family forever. And I would have smiled through being erased. Instead, we had hard conversations. We recalibrated. We matured. All of us. That's worth more than any beachfront villa. Last Sunday at dinner, Nathan raised a toast again. Not to me this time. To growth, he said. We all clinked glasses. Simple. Real. No performance. And as I looked around that table, my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandkids, and sometimes even the forgotten women when they join, I realized something powerful. I didn't lose my family. I lost the version of myself that accepted less. And in its place, I found a stronger one. The kind that doesn't shout. Doesn't threaten. Doesn't beg. Just stands steady and says, "I love you. But not at the cost of myself." That's the real inheritance. Not money. Not vacations. Not who pays for what. But the standard you set. Because once you raise it, the right people rise with you. And if they don't, you still stand tall. Always. Underscore 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 underscore. You know what the wildest part of this whole story is? It was never about Hawaii. Not really. It wasn't about the villa. It wasn't about the airport chaos. It wasn't even about the money. It was about the moment I realized I had slowly started disappearing in my own life. That text at 11:02 p.m. didn't break me. It exposed something. You've already done your part by paying. That line was never about a vacation. It was about a role. They thought my part was funding. Supporting. Smiling. Staying quiet. Not needing anything back. And the truth? For years, I allowed it. Not because I was weak, but because I thought that's what love required. I thought being that good mom meant absorbing discomfort so everyone else could stay comfortable. I thought if I just gave enough, showed up enough, sacrificed enough, I'd always have a place at the table. But here's what nobody tells you. If you never require respect, people eventually stop offering it. Freezing that account wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't petty. It was the first time I interrupted a pattern. And patterns don't break quietly. They rattle. They shake. They expose entitlement. But they also reveal who's willing to grow. Nathan grew. Slowly. Imperfectly. But he grew. Tanya had to look at herself. And I stopped shrinking. That's the real twist. I didn't lose my family. I lost the version of myself that believed I had to earn my place through sacrifice. The mason jar still sits in my cabinet. Empty now. But it doesn't represent saving anymore. It represents standards. I don't give from depletion. I don't fund disrespect. And I don't beg for inclusion. If I'm at the table, it's because I'm wanted. If I contribute, it's because it's mutual. If I love, it's because there's reciprocity. That's not cold. That's grown. Last week, Olivia asked me something out of nowhere. Grandma, what's the bravest thing you ever did? I thought about all the obvious answers. Raising a child alone after losing my husband. Going back to work at 40. Surviving grief. But I told her the truth. The bravest thing I ever did, I said, was saying no when everyone expected me to say yes. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Because one day, she'll need that lesson. And now she has it. So if you're sitting there thinking this story was about an airport or a bank account, it wasn't. It was about identity. About remembering that being generous doesn't mean being available for disrespect. About understanding that love and access are not the same thing. About realizing that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to close the wallet and open your eyes. I didn't freeze the account. I unfroze myself. And once you do that, you never go back to being the quiet sponsor of someone else's comfort again. That's the end of the trip. But it's the beginning of something better. Always.